DD India.
Namaskar and welcome to this very special edition of DD Dialogue, our G20 Conclave special series. In this episode, we are very honored and glad to have with us someone who has been associated for a very long time with Delhi as a constituency. We have with us Meenakshi Lekhi ji, MOS, External Affairs and Culture, joining us on the show to talk about how culture has been really a force multiplier when we talk about India's G20 presidency, because we have seen, ma'am, the way culture has been represented in the last 1 year in almost all G20 events across the country. And we will also try and examine and understand and have a conversation around the fact and understand from the Honorable Minister what makes this G20 under India's presidency historic, unprecedented and different from other summits and much more. Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been a very, very busy schedule for you.
That's right, but all with a lot of happiness and cheer all over. So one is
Delhi being
enjoying.
your
And my constituency, so most things are housed here. So one feels a very, very upbeat about everything, because you're able to showcase, you're able to work and create assets for the people. I think it's a great feeling.
It's a showpiece event for Delhi and people
Absolutely.
of Delhi.
Absolutely.
Mandapam is all set, all decked. To begin with, it's like a final countdown.
Yes, final countdown.
Preparations. How is the buzz?
So the buzz is we are beaming with enthusiasm, but as is with every big occasion, that your heart is in your mouth and you're constantly sort of trying to grab the best of possible things and amongst the traffic and everything else. But it's a happy feeling when you see so many people, common people, walking on the streets, your family members, your relatives, your friends, and constituents, everyone talking about, Delhi's looking beautiful, you guys have done a good job.
Plus traffic.
It's a huge, honor, and one feels very, very good about it. So it's a upbeat moment for us.
Prime Minister's slogan, like one of the slogans, Vikas bhi, Virasat bhi.
Yes.
Development and legacy should go hand in hand. So how is India now taking this vision along under its presidency, G20?
So I must say, if we could change the word legacy with heritage, that would be better, because legacy can have multiple interpretations, and there are many legacies which we want to get rid of. So I would say progress, development and taking the heritage along. It's not as if you leave your heritage, because heritage is part of your identity. So you need to identify yourself with your existence, and that's the softer part of our existence. And I feel ultimately, what is development worth unless your soul is protected? The soul's protection is what your existence is all about, your identity is all about. So you just can't change yourself for being someone else,
Right.
So India has taken a very, very cautious stand so far as this aspect is concerned. Knowing who we are, carrying on the legacy of 5,000 plus years of civilization along, layer by layer, showcasing the best to the people, catering to all the 5 senses of your visitors. It has been the job which we have been engaged with.
Absolutely.
And many things have been personally very, very pleasant. Okay. So just the planning of it.
Yeah.
Just looking at things around. I mean, something which we are shortly going to showcase when the spouses of G20 heads of states visit. We've catered to one exhibition, and I feel that exhibition is a must-see for everyone.
Okay.
Whoever is in Delhi, whoever is visiting Delhi, after the event, this exhibition is going to stay on for, I've requested them to make it, keep the exhibition for about 3 months. Everyone in Delhi should visit that exhibition just to know who we are and who our ancestors were and how creative these people were, not only in the skill set but also in articulating philosophy, way of living, all that. So the title or theme of the exhibition is Roots to Roots. So R-O-O-T-S, the roots of our civilizational existence, and roots, R-O-U-T-E-S, the roots we took to travel across the globe. And that kind of heritage, which probably has been kept away from many a site, a very few people, it's creating awareness amongst many as well, amongst ourselves. It's a knowledge sharing experience, it's a ownership experience, it's knowing who we are, it's an experience of identity. So I personally identify myself to many of those things, and I feel pretty good about it. And on the other side, morning event, we have showcased Indian Agricultural Research Institute. So our existence is also about science. It's about millets, it's about crop diversification, it's about how we've dealt with science and how we inherited. We had a legacy of a country which had food shortage, and we got rid of that legacy by becoming, creating a stock of food and giving it to all those who needed it.
Right.
So it's been a travel. It's been a journey of a sort, and journey of India through its skill set, through science and technology, so it's through its heritage, and that's what we are willing to showcase to the world.
I'm also going to, ma'am, ask you about big takeaways of various culture groups. But before that, since we're talking about the culture and the heritage part of it, Honorable Minister, we have seen culture has been widely represented in almost all the events across the country, the whole vision behind it. Is this also one of the aspects which sets this G20 under India's presidency apart from other summits? Not really comparing it. What do you think this is going to have an impact on India's soft power?
So I must say, very few recognize the diversity we exhibit and the antiquity we exhibit. So in terms of antiquity also, we are one of the longest surviving civilizations. We are a surviving civilization and a continuous civilization. In terms of unity, for example, which country can claim 6 classical dance forms? Which country can claim 2 classical music forms? Which country has a religion, which is our religion, but Samved is part of it? It's a performing art. So Samved is where we believe that music started from, and writing the notes, taking the notes, speaking in a certain way, in a certain time frame. So Samved is Ayurveda, on the other hand, is science, but it's part of your religion. It's part of your Yajurveda or Atharveda. I'm not quite sure. I'm going wrong there. But Sushrut Samhita, Charak Samhita, all this is what we can showcase in terms of science, in terms of our heritage. And thus, this G20 was very different. We showcase, because if you look at the science even today, about 70% of medicines are phytochemicals, like all derived from plants, even today. We call them allopathic drugs or sometimes homeopathic drugs, but most drugs have come out of plants. Now, thousands of years ago, Ayurveda was created in this country, which tabulated the plants, which tabulated the usage, each part, and which tabulated their seasons, the fruits, the flowers, If that is not taxonomy, what else is taxonomy?
So even when G20 concludes, this whole impact on India's soft power, the way now through this, we have managed to talk about India's, or rather showcase India's culture to the world.
Absolutely.
This is a very important dimension.
You know, it becomes an important dimension because people need to understand as a whole, as a complete whole. Normally, one small aspect will be blown out of proportion. So there's a disproportionate representation by vested interest groups.
Okay.
Now that's not whole of us that we are. We are 1.4 billion people. Very few can compare with us. We've retained, we've shown resilience to our existence. We've existed in spite of challenges.
Yes.
And today is a time of polycrisis across the globe. And the world is trying to find ways and means to battle those polycrisis situations. So be it pandemic, be it sustainable development, be it climate change, be it creating economy of a sustainable nature, be it renewable energy, be it you know, your consumption patterns. India has lived through all that, all those challenges, and we have been resilient. So I think it's time we showcased ourselves, and also find solutions to the problems which the world is battling with.
Yeah.
And that is possible only when people understand us. People know why we behave in a certain way, why we talk in a certain way, where it comes from, and who we really are. And if people understand who we really are, there is a certain amount of trust. And that trust is what helps even in building relationships. Because individuals matter, leadership matters, trust matters.
We have managed the trust beautifully, especially, ma'am, since you're also deputy in the Ministry of External Affairs. Deeply divided world.
Yes.
And you have presidency here in India.
That's
India
right.
has to walk the tightrope of balancing.
Yes, and that's what has been the job specifically of G20, and our government at every level has tried to explain our stances, has tried to tell people exactly what I was talking earlier, who we are, why we do things differently, why we behave differently. There is a reason, and that reason cannot be faulted from our perspective. And that's why we act as a bridge between, you know, a completely contrarian views, because we've always lived with the philosophy of there is the middle path, and that middle path needs to be walked and talked. And there are shades which you need to search for to harmonize the situations and existence. You know, we are battling with failed supply chains. COVID-19 is not really way far back. It was very recent. And the world is battling with supply chain management. World is battling with imperfections. There is no perfect country, and there is no perfect way of living. But housing all the differences and yet finding commonalities is the way forward.
Right, ma'am. Moving forward to some big takeaways from the series of culture working groups that took place over the last 1 year. There's a lot of focus on getting cultural artifacts back to the country of origin. Would you like to share some insights?
So I must say that before 2014, we had artifacts which are, you know, hard to explain. Just about 13, 14 artifacts which were brought back to the country. Now we are closing on about 400 plus. It's been, you know, 400 may not seem like a big number, but comparing it with 13, 400 does sound like a big number. What one must understand is that these artifacts have been taken away from our country at a time when we did have an imperialistic past, so a whole lot of artifacts went out of the country at that time. Subsequently, there was lesser awareness amongst people, so a whole lot of them got stolen post-independence. A whole lot of them were sold off, people not knowing what it was. A whole lot of them got smuggled out, and then there were local FIRs or there were no FIRs. Many wrong things is what has what we have gone through, and because we've gone through so much of wrongs around our time frame, at times the legality of it gets very tough.
Okay.
Legality of it, that this this particular god cannot belong to anyone else but us.
But us, yes.
Or this particular panel cannot be anyone else but us.
Yeah.
This stone carving, none
has
in the
to
world,
be Indian,
and none can craft it. None can craft it. So you can see it and you know what it is. But this was stolen. This was taken out of X place, or Y FIR was registered, or was taken out in an illegal manner, or a Z person took it out. All this gets building up of this entire chain, contesting these cases in the courts, getting evidences, then dealing with the governments.
You've dealt with
many governments,
yes.
And I would credit our Prime Minister, because wherever he's meeting heads of states, etc., there are other conversations which are, of course, not in public domain, and casual conversation and lunches and dinners, etc., where he's kind of nudged a little bit, and he's sort of been working at it behind the curtains. Departments have been working, because you see, I smilingly say, officers are the same which were there before 2014. So bureaucracy has not really changed. I mean, some may have got retired, but you were dealing with virtually the same class and same thinking lot. When leadership changes and takes certain stances and gets people to act in a certain way, action does happen.
Okay, there's a messaging.
There's a messaging, there is a method of working, and that becomes important, because you know what the priorities are. And I must compliment the bureaucracy, they're very smart in terms of understanding what the priorities are, and they get to work, and they get to sort of work on those fronts also. So there's a persuasion, there is a follow-up, there is finding methods of retrieving things and all that has been worked.
Basically, the message that this job needs to be done, no matter what.
No, if the highest office is talking this,
yes,
it's got to be done.
Absolutely,
it's got there is no space for
anything else.
Counter argument. I mean, you've got to do it.
Yes.
So that's also what has happened, and I must say that I'm grateful to God that one was part of many such conversations, and being there, seeing it happen, it's a very, very satisfying experience, even at a personal level. I mean, imagine that Annapurna Devi, which was stolen 100 years ago, is brought back from a university in Canada, dealing with that government, PM's advice, bringing it, showcasing it at NGMA, taking it to Kashi. It's a very, very satisfying experience. Then other artifacts sent all over Tamil Nadu. The DG's been called, who probably was the one who'd written, the CBI cases were registered and things like that. So it's not just, it's a personal commitment also. So you feel good about it. I mean, if I see some clay figurines from Akhnur, I show it to you, I'm sure you'll feel excited and good about it.
Yes, I
right?
know what you mean, yes.
Yeah, so it's a happy feeling.
Yes. Also, India has proposed adding culture in the 2030 development agenda. That's
Yes.
huge.
Yes.
Likely to happen?
I'm so sure. I'm so sure because it all started at 2020 when Saudi's presidency was there of G20. So there was a little mention, a nudge on the subject, including culture. Then it was carried on by Italian presidency. Then we had Bali Declaration, and Indonesia carried that forward. And then came India. India took it to a different level and showcased what it means to be part of Indian culture, showcase its antiquity, practices, sustainability, resilience, diversity. I mean, people just say unity in diversity, but what it means to handle that diversity, what it means to have unity. So I would explain in one line that 6 classical forms are from different regions of this country, and each will perform based on, you know, the Sangeet, Vadya, Nritya, all the yantra, but the ragas remain the same, and all the performances start with Ganpati Vandana.
Yes.
So you know the soul is the same. So expressions could differ, and that's what is for people to see when they come here. It's for them to see food, textiles, jewelry, gifting, gift items, fragrances.
Yeah.
So gourmet. I think there's so much. And
India all over.
India all over.
Yeah.
Our archaeological sites, our traditions, our way of welcoming others.
Yes.
So there is so much to showcase.
Absolutely. Before I actually ask you the final question, a quick one on, there's also a lot of emphasis on upskilling the creative sector, this
That's
culture,
right.
and also indigenous languages, promotion of.
Yes.
A quick one on that, ma'am, also.
So for example, there has been a greater emphasis on mother tongue. Even I mean, it's not my subject today, but even new education policy is NEP is mentioning that and working on it. Several things have been made available in various languages, from transactions to sites to protocols is available in multiple languages where people can go back and give, I mean, small example, the latest Digital Technology Act. In the Digital Technology Act, when you need to take a consent from somebody, all 22 languages are mentioned.
Okay.
So much emphasis both on technical side and professional side on mother tongue and indigenous languages, and of course indigenous languages, many languages which have very few people who speak that language, so protecting that, conserving that, their literature, oral traditions. Ministry of Culture does quite a lot of work in that sector. And I must say the outcomes of all this and emphasizing on culture as a group to further economic goals. Because if you, for example, if you're working on mission life and you end up planting a few million or billion trees, it is going to impact the people who are suffering from desertification. It's going to impact the lives of people who are probably because of population imploding, the forests are going away. Their resources are getting depleted. Their food security is getting impacted. The traditional medicine systems are getting impacted. So I think mission life itself will give sustainability. Culture, if a particular heritage, and around that heritage you have performances, you have upkeep, conservators, protectors, guides, food stalls, performers, everybody. I mean, it's a whole economic setup.
Yes.
So in that sense, culture is very much part of economy. Restitution of heritage helps everyone visit museums. So museum itself is a subject which helps an ecosystem to survive in addition to protecting heritage.
Right.
Digitization gives employment to so many people and also make so much of literature, language, archival material, museums available to people who may not find time to visit.
Right.
So,
yes.
Cooperation.
Absolutely. Ma'am, there's so much to talk, but we really have to now ask this final question, Ms. Lekhi. Your message, and if you have to sum up this G20 development with heritage tagline, the India way.
So I think my message is the message which India has chosen, and that is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. And Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam or Atithi Devo Bhav will not be true unless we practice it. So India has showcased that ultimate existence is not about conversations. Ultimate existence is about action. So put the money where the mouth is. And that's what I would say India's stance has been, that whether it's sustainability, it's coexistence, it's cooperation, we can achieve it all by understanding each other deeper and creating an ecosystem which is conducive for all to exist. Let no one be left behind.
Yes, let no one be left behind. And we started by asking you the whole ethos behind Vikas Bhi, Virasat Bhi. I think that's how it also kind of beautifully sums it up, development with heritage. Thank you very much.
Can I add one more line?
Sure, please, ma'am.
So I would say Vikas Bhi, Virasat Bhi, and then Mission Life. So it's about Pragati, Prakriti and Sanskriti. And that's what India is all about.
Yes. Pragati, Prakriti and Sanskriti. That's the India way, G20 under its presidency. Thank you very much, Meenakshi Lekhi, ma'am, for talking to us exclusively on DD Dialogue or G20 special series.
Thank you very much.
And that's it we have for you in this special edition of DD Dialogue G20 series. Stay tuned to Doordarshan. Namaskar.